I'm joined today by the 13-time PDC title winner and three-time winner on the European Tour, Ian White. Ian, how are you?
I'm fine. Is everyone okay?
Yeah, we're doing just fine, and thank you for joining us. We'll start off with some background for our listeners. You're currently in Germany, having just played a pair of Players' Championships, a pair of European Tour qualifiers, winning through both of those, and you've got the European Tour coming up this Friday. How have you spent, though, your day off?
Just chilling. I'm just hanging around at Hildesheim at the moment, and I'm getting a lift down to Leverkusen tomorrow. It worked out. It was the cheapest way to do it, rather than fly home and then come back the next day. So it's worth staying in Germany.
Glad you've got to chill a little bit. Now, if we circle back to when we last had you on the show, it's almost 3 years to the day. You wouldn't have been in Germany, though, this time 3 years ago, as March 2020 was when the world was shutting down due to the pandemic. Can you believe it's been 3 years since that?
No, it's gone very quick, hasn't it? But it's still affecting the darts. I still think it's affecting, the way the rankings and everything is. So, we're glad everyone's getting back to normal, and we're starting to enjoy the darts again.
Yeah, you mentioned how you think it's affected everyone and affected the rankings, and I'll ask a question on that in a second. But we'll start, though, with that lockdown itself. You won the last event before lockdown, getting you back in the top 10. PDC did put the home tour on, but for a player who had played pretty much every event for the previous decade, almost every Euro Tour and Players' Championship, what was that break like from you, suddenly not having to be on the road constantly?
It was nice at first, having a few days off. We had nice weather and that, so it was quite good to have the time off. But in hindsight, no, it was the worst thing that ever happened with the COVID and that, because they did online darts and everything. But that's okay for the young kids, everyone that's into the technology and that. But when you've got the older generation, like with me, Gary Anderson and stuff like that, we're not into this online darts, and it just wasn't right. We took a lot of time off, and it's hard to come back when you've had that time off, but we've got to cope with it, and that's what we've got to do.
You mentioned eventually came back, and even when you came back, it wasn't back to how it had been before. Instead of playing 2 Players' Championship events, you were playing 4 or 5 in a week. Even the televised events were behind closed doors. What was that like, coming back, playing, adjusting to the new normal, especially having been on the tour for so long?
To me, it was horrible, because all right, we were trying to get the tour going and start playing again, but when you've got 5 days in the hotel, you can't come out. You're living out of a cooler box with your milk and your cereal and stuff like that. It was horrible. The first day, you got tested with COVID, and you had to stay in the room for 24 hours. And you couldn't come out because you had to wait for the results to come back. A lot of people didn't see that, but 5 days, 6 days in the hotel just to play the tournaments, it didn't suit me, and you can see by the results that it didn't suit me, and it didn't suit a lot of players.
Now, we have to mention, though, you almost broke the internet recreating the Cristiano Ronaldo pose on the stairs. Does that picture still crop up, and are you surprised you didn't get a calendar deal off of it?
Yeah, I'd love the calendar deal, but I don't think it'd have been, good for anyone. I don't think we'd have sold any. But yeah, that was a bit of fun, that was, during COVID. But everyone was downhearted, and with the COVID and that. So I'd done something like that, and the comments I got back was that Ian White had a carpet and Cristiano Ronaldo didn't have carpet on his stairs. He couldn't afford it. But yeah, it's so funny. But yeah, it still pops up, and even with the carrier bag, that still pops up as well now. So
2020, as you said, was horrible. One thing that wasn't horrible out of it was the European Championships, where you averaged 103 in getting your first win on television against Michael van Gerwen on a 10-4 win in the second round. What did that win mean to you?
Mate, it meant good. It shows that you can go and play on stage. You have that many people that say certain things about you, and and every time you play on stage, it comes up all the time. It starts getting a bit boring, but what people say. But it is what it is, and yeah, I beat Van Gerwen, on his own stage in his own country and stuff like that, and they've won many games, on the tours and that against people. So I just think it's a load of nonsense.
So you mentioned how coming back out of COVID, the rankings were affected and everything. One way that most obviously affected you was if you go back to 2019, you made those 4 consecutive Euro Tour finals, winning 2 of them. And suddenly over the next 2 years, there's only 6 Euro Tours combined. 4 in 2020, 2 in 2021. And that obviously affected both your Pro Tour ranking as you dropped from number 1 and then the main rankings as those events came off. How frustrating was it to see that money drop off and not even have the events exist to try to defend that?
It was very frustrating. You sat at home, the money's coming off. You've got all these other sports in the world that are, like football, tennis, golf, and they all froze their leagues. They all froze theirs, but we didn't freeze ours, and we had to sit at home and watch all the money come off, which, my personal view, it wasn't fair. But that's just the way it is, and that was the rules that we had to go by. And 2 years down the line now, there's people now that have lost their tour card. John Henderson's one, Andy Bolton's another. They're just 2 of my friends, but there's a lot more that have lost their tour card due to this COVID. It's 2 years down the line. And that's what our rankings is over 2 years. So these lads now, have lost the card and they're fighting now to earn money and get back up there. But I just think it should have been frozen. But that was my personal view. But we have to go with what rules they are, and that's what we go by.
Was there any talk about freezing the rankings that you know about, or is it something that they didn't talk about or you just don't know?
Well, we talked about it. The players talked about it and said it should have been frozen or had a COVID league until it kicked in again. Make a different league. We have about 4 or 5 different leagues. So why not have a COVID league for 2 years or a year and do it that way? But I think it was all to do with Q School, because it happens every year, and certain people have got like 2-year cards. We're coming to the end, and you couldn't give them a 3-year card. So bit of politics and that in there, but I assume that's what it is. But hey, that's what it was, and that's what we've got to go by.
Well, let's get on to some more recent times. In one match from 2022, Alex spoke to Luke Humphreys about it, and it's one of the most incredible finishes that either of us have seen, not in person, obviously, but on Dart Connect, that 170 in the decider to beat Luke, with him waiting on 38. Is that the most clutch finish you've ever hit?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a tough finish to do, and when the 2 go in, you step back and just throw it the ball, and sometimes it'll go in, sometimes it'll go in there double one. You know what I mean? It was just one of them darts, and it went straight in for me, which was good. And look where Luke is now. Luke Humphreys is playing well, and he's well up there in the rankings and that. So it was nice to get a win over him.
Of course, the rest of 2022 did not go quite as well. We saw you a few times on the Euro Tour, but on the TV, it was the first time in pretty much a decade that you missed the match play, the Grand Prix, Players' Championship Finals, and of course the Worlds. How much did it hurt missing out on those majors after being a regular in them for a decade?
It hurt all the time. I was watching the people on there, but I had an operation that year, and that was more important. I needed to get that sorted and get back to playing darts, and watching everyone at the Worlds, watching everyone, especially the Worlds, because they had like 2 months off. But Players' Championships, like you said, World Grand Prix, just missed a lot of them, and I don't want that to happen again. So it's a good time now to get my head together and try and get back on them TV tournaments.
So you mentioned operation. I'm assuming that was during the time off, and what was it?
Yeah, it was kidney stones. They had to. You couldn't get it out. It was 2 centimeters long. So they technically it was 20 millimeters. So they had to drill into my back and go into the kidney and get it out that way. It couldn't pass it any other way, and I was in agony all the time. So when we were having these 4 days and 5-day pro tours, I was trying to play the game. I'd play 1 game, lose. I'd go back to my hotel room, run a hot bath, and curl up in the bath because it was the only thing that could ease the pain. And that's what I was doing all the time. And I needed to get it done, and that's what I had to do. So I had to take the time time out and, get myself right.
Assuming everything went well?
Yeah, everything's good now. There's no more kidney stones, but we'll see in the next year or two, because we don't know if it's hereditary or, whether I'm going to get them again. So we'll see.
Well, glad to hear it. And seems that you've been making a better start this year. We'll come to that in a second. But the year started with one of your good friends on tour, Michael Smith, winning the World Championship and becoming number one. You and him have been practice partners for a while. Do you still get together and practice, or has it been more difficult with his added commitments as world champ?
Yeah, it's been very difficult. The times that I've got to try and qualify, like during the week, and then when I've got the time to practice with him, he's away in the Premier League and everything. So we know the first 5 months till the Premier League finishes, we can't do much. But yeah, I've so made up for him. As a friend practicing, and he became world champion. It was the best thing ever. I've done it with Adrian Lewis as well. I practiced with him and he became world champion. So maybe I need to put a CV out and say, does anyone want to practice with me? He might become world champion.
I'm very happy to take you up on that offer. I don't think I'll become world champion. Now, luckily, though, so far this year, things have been off to a much better start. You didn't qualify for the first Euro Tour, but you did qualify for the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and now eighth event, 7 in a row, starting this upcoming weekend. How pleased are you with that record so far to make yourself a regular on the Euro Tour again?
No, I'm very pleased. The hardest thing is qualifying. But, with missing the Worlds in December, I sat down and I just thought to myself, I need to change my ways. I need to do certain things that, get my head together and get back on winning ways. With the Pro Tour, I'm not done too bad. I've been quite steady last 32 quite a lot. So, I just needed to get back on these European tours. And then, like the first one I didn't qualify for, I missed 3 darts of double 10 to beat Brendan to get through. But then after that, I just put my head together mentally and I'm doing well and I've qualified for them all. So I can't ask for any more than that. It's going well. I've just got to perform now when I get to these European tours.
Well, of course, this will be your 87th Euro Tour event. Very few players have played more than that. We mentioned at the start, you've won 3 of them, made 3 finals, including 4 in a row. Obviously, beating MVG in a last leg final in the Netherlands will be hard to top, but what are your fondest memories of playing on the European Tour?
I loved it. I loved going to the different places. Like you said, that month was just brilliant for me. 2 wins and 2 runner-ups in 1 month. Everything just went for me. But I think the 2 that I won, I could have gone out first round. I think Dimitri was in one of them. He had darts at double to beat me, and you just get that bit of luck. But like you said, just before COVID, I think there was only 1 European tour in the whole history of them going that I'd missed. But apart from that, I'm enjoying it. I enjoy the darts. I enjoy the European ones because I love the crowd.
And you'll see that crowd in just a couple days. Now, one last question before we let you get back to your dinner. How are you approaching this year? Is it about consolidating your place on tour for next year, or is the focus on getting back in as many majors as you can, or is it something else?
It's getting back into them majors, getting back up them rankings. That's what I need to do. I need to focus on that. And, that's what I'm trying to do. It's hard, and I know it's going to be hard, and I don't think it's going to happen overnight. But I've just got to put my head down and concentrate, and I want to get back where I belong.
Well, you'll be back at least one place you belong, and that's the European stage in a couple of days. Best of luck, and thank you.
Thank you very much.